So here we are, guys. Game of Thrones once again. Season 6 is here. Man, it seems so long ago since the last season, but hey, it's finally here. Finally. And I'm not going to let this pass me by this time. Each week, I'm going to do a breakdown of each episode. I'm going to go through it pretty much, more or less, scene by scene, so that we don't miss anything. We're going to break it down, discuss it, speculate, all that stuff. So obviously, full spoiler alert if you didn't catch the alert already. Don't watch this until after you've seen the show. Alright, so let's jump in. It begins with where we've got to begin, which is dead Jon Snow. How many people like me were just wishing he would open his eyes and just spring to life with like glowing blue White Walker sort of eyes there? But alas, he did not, but I'm 110% sure, as most of us are, that Jon Snow will come back in some form, in some way, in the future. And when, the few of Jon Snow's few remaining friends gather him and, take him with his wolf, his direwolf or darewolf or whatever it's called, into that room and there's a knock on the door and it's the Red Priestess. Yes, come on. I was like, why is she not doing her crazy resurrection thing? Because she can do that. We all know that, but she just kind of doesn't. But when she's there looking at Jon Snow's body, she does say something interesting. She said, "I saw him in the flames. I saw him fighting at Winterfell." That's interesting because you remember back last season with Stannis, he said to Stannis, "I've seen Bolton banners burning at Winterfell." So she knows the Boltons are going to get thrashed at Winterfell. And now she says she saw him fighting at Winterfell. Now, of course, she could just be making it up because, that's the character we know of her. She just makes stuff up. She manipulates people, tells them what they want to hear. But she did seem genuinely surprised when she found out that Stannis' army had abandoned her, and it kind of dawned on her last season that the vision she saw wasn't going to come true here, and that's why she sort of ran off. But now what I'm betting is I'm sort of trying to put the pieces together here. If Jon Snow does come back in some form, either as a White Walker or resurrected by the fire, whatever, if he decides to travel south and take back all of Westeros, Winterfell would be his first stop. That's his old home, and it's the furthest city to the north, isn't it? And also consider this. If he meets up with Sansa and Reek, who are trying to find him, because he mentions that a bit later in the episode, once he meets up with Sansa and he finds out what Ramsay Bolton did to Sansa, Jon Snow's going to have a big score to settle with Ramsay Bolton. And I'm booking it right now. It's going to be Ramsay Bolton versus a resurrected Jon Snow. And Jon Snow's probably going to be reunited with Theon. He's going to have Theon by his side, taking out Ramsay maybe at the end of this season. That'd be awesome. I would love to see that. But following this, we get the new Night's Watch commander basically trying to justify why he and all his friends took out Jon Snow. And from what he says, we see that these idiots on the wall, they still don't get it. Jon Snow was the only one to really get it, because he was like, this guy, he tries to justify what he did by, he's like, Jon Snow, he thought bringing in the wildlings is the right thing to do, but it would have been the end of us. Those are the words he uses. He doesn't realize that, no, the wildlings are not going to be the end of you. The White Walkers are going to be the end of you, and you need the wildlings to help you defend the wall to hold them back. But I guess from a certain perspective, we can't fully blame them for being idiots for not recognizing that, because apart from Jon Snow and his mate, who's now a maester, nobody else has really seen the White Walkers. They haven't really seen their army. Previously, when they've gone north of the wall, they've run into a few, but no one has really seen the full-on army that's out there, so no one really grasps the level of threat. But it's looking in real bad shape for the guys on the wall at the moment, because nobody's left who understands that. Unless Jon Snow's mate comes back, but then could he convince everyone? Probably not. So I have to see what happens there. This was followed by Ramsay Snow, or Ramsay Bolton as he is now known, mourning his dead girlfriend. And I thought this was a really good character scene for him, because he's sort of telling this guy who's there the story of how they met, and that she was someone who wasn't afraid of him, but she sort of understood him and all that. And he's like, I'll avenge you. All the pain that was done to you, I'll do it 1,000 times to them. But then the guy's like, do you want to have her buried, or do you want to have the body burnt on a pyre? And Ramsay goes, oh no, it's good meat. Just throw it to the hounds. That's hilarious. That just shows that Ramsay Snow is a complete psychopath. Because he didn't really care about this chick. He wants to get even with Sansa and Reek, but you can see from that. He wants to get even with them, not because he cared about this woman, but because they took away something that he enjoyed, So he's a real psychopath. He doesn't really feel any compassion. He just wants to get even for that reason. But this was followed by a pretty interesting scene of Ramsay's dad talking to him as he walks out. And Ramsay's father mentions to him that, what did he say? He mentioned to him that his games, as his dad calls them with people, is basically ruining everything. He's like, look, I set you up with Sansa as a wife, you played your games with her, and now she's taken off and we have no way of giving you a proper heir for the North, so you've basically just ruined any chance of you becoming my descendant if we can't get her back and healthy in one piece. And then he also points out, you did the same thing with, he calls him the boy from the Iron Islands, which we know, of course, is Theon. Because remember, with Theon, the idea was he was going to be a value prisoner that they could ransom, but by the time Ramsay is done with him, he's not even really Theon anymore, so he's no value to them. So he's like, you've ruined, you've done it before, you've done it again now with playing these games, you're basically ruining our chances. And he explains to him, he's like, do you think fighting an already half-beaten army of Thanos or lighting a few camps alight in the middle of the night is going to be the same as fighting a Lannister army? Because he's like, that's going to happen. And Ramsay's like, no, it's not the same. So I find it an interesting dynamic that Ramsay is this psycho, is this lunatic, but his dad does kind of have this hook into him where he's a bit like, you got to rein it in because we got to be more strategic about this. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because can you really control Ramsay? I don't know. I mean, maybe you could, who knows? Because he's every bit as sadistic and psychopathic as Joffrey, but he's certainly more intelligent than Joffrey is. Joffrey could be manipulated. There were people who could still control him to a degree. Ramsay, he's more intelligent, but whether his father can rein him in or not, we'll have to see, because there's going to be some big stuff happening with them in the future, as we mentioned with Jon Snow, and also with the Lannisters down south, but we'll cover that in a bit. Then we finally get to see Reek and Sansa running through the snow. Apparently they miraculously survived jumping from the castle wall in the last episode of last season. I guess they didn't break their legs or freeze to death in the snow or just die on impact. Do we not question that? Yeah, okay, whatever. But this sequence kind of showed me that Theon really he's kind of changed identity again, because he was Theon Greyjoy, then he tried to be, he was like a Stark Theon Greyjoy, then he tried to be like one of the Iron Islands, and then he ended up being turned into Reek. But I think now he's sort of become something else, because we see him, he was sort of taking the lead with Sansa here. He's like, look, we got to go through the river, because that way the bloodhounds won't be able to track us, they'll lose our scent in the water. So he's taking the initiative there. Then when they are cornered again, he's like, look, I'll lead them away. So he's being heroic there, something that Reek previously would not have done. So he's flowering, he's becoming a new person. So he's changing identity for a fourth time. Poor old Theon. I mean, I know he's done some ghastly things, but man, he's been put through the ringer so many times on this show, Theon. But he's still there, he's still alive, he's like a cockroach. He'll survive the apocalypse, this guy. You could put him through anything and he'll just keep going. But there was a really nice moment between the two of them where they've just come out of the river, they're both freezing, and Sansa is like freezing and shaking and exhausted, and they sort of hug together to conserve body heat and all that, and Sansa kind of relaxes and almost goes to sleep for a second there until the sound of the bloodhounds chasing them down wakes them up again. But that's good. I guess that shows that the issues that she had with Theon, because she thought he killed their brothers and all that, I guess that's all gone now. And she trusts him again, which is great. But this led to one of the biggest cheer moments for me in the show, is Theon tries to lead them away, doesn't work, they find her, and then out of nowhere, Brienne of Tarth and Podrick come flying in to the rescue. This was so great to see. And they just blitzed everyone, and I was just hoping that Sansa would actually pick up a knife or a sword and actually do something in this fight. Oh boy. Should have stayed in the Vale, Sansa. Oh yeah! Yeah! Finally Brienne comes in. Yes! Alright. Cut him down. Come on, Sansa, here's your chance. Do something and grab a sword and stab somebody. Redeem yourself. Oh my god, she's down. No, she can't be down. Is she sick or something? Get up! Oh no! Come on, Sansa, save her! Oh, she's alright. She's Brienne of Tarth, she's fine. I really think that's one of the things that they're going to need to do in this season with Sansa is they got to get Sansa back on track, because I think all of last season really hurt her character. Because, all right, let's go back a little bit because it ties into this scene. The whole thing, like going back way back when we got Dark Sansa, like the last episode 2 seasons ago, whatever, that bit where she comes down, she's like Dark Sansa, she's with Littlefinger, and we're like I took that the whole thing is like, ooh, she's becoming a player in the Game of Thrones. She manipulated those people and she tricked them and da-da-da. So we're building her up as like not a victim now, but an actual player. And then what do they do in the next season? They marry her off to Ramsay, and she goes right back to being the victimized wife like she was with Joffrey. Only in this case, it makes even less sense, because when she was like with Joffrey in King's Landing, that's not her city. She's in a totally foreign city. She doesn't know anyone. She doesn't have any contacts. The only person who's nice to her is Littlefinger. So she doesn't have any means with which to save herself. When she was, engaged and then married to Ramsay in Winterfell, that's her city. Those are her people. Like that old lady came to her and is like, hey, I can help you, Sansa. Just say the word. Just put a candle in the window and we'll come and get you. This is the North. Brienne of Tarth is right down the road. Like if Sansa had they built her up as this person who's going to be confident, going to take charge, and through the whole season she does absolutely nothing in Winterfell. She doesn't come up with some kind of escape plan in case things turn bad. She's just becomes a victim again, and then it was just, I hate it when they backpedal like that with characters. Any TV show, I hate it when they do it. So that's why in this big fight scene that happens here, I was hoping she'd pick up a sword and maybe kill a dog or something. Maybe like one of the dogs latches onto Brienne of Tarth's arm and Sansa could stab it. Something like that. She doesn't have to take on a knight or something. But just something. That's what I want to see with Sansa in this. I want to see her stepping up and actually I want to see Dark Sansa again. That's what I want. Dark Sansa. But this scene, I loved how it ended with this new sort of group of 4. You've got Brienne and Podrick, and you've got Sansa and Reek, or Theon, or whatever his new name is going to be since he's in his third or fourth incarnation now. But so you got this group of 4, and I got to say, this really excited me, this group of 4. I thought they're kind of like an awesome foursome, or they're kind of like a fantastic 4. And I was thinking, if they are like a fantastic 4, if this group are going to stick together and try to travel now, maybe, I guess Brienne would be the Thing. I guess Podrick would be Mr. Fantastic, because according to last season, he is kind of fantastic with the ladies, so I guess he'd be Mr. Fantastic. Sansa would be the Invisible Woman, because she just blends into every environment and doesn't really have an identity of her own yet. So I guess then by default, Reek would be Johnny Storm? Okay, that doesn't quite fit, but to put it in the comment, guys, like what name could we come up for this group of 4? Like the Awesome Foursome, the Fantastic 4? Like, I'm sure there's a cool name we can think of. Brienne and the Howling Commandos? I don't know, whatever. Put it in the comments, what should we call this group of 4? The show then takes us back to Jaime's return in King's Landing, and we see Cersei comes out expecting to see Jaime coming back with her daughter, and he does, but she's dead because she's poisoned. This was interesting because the look on her face as the boat comes in, it was kind of this strange mixture where it wasn't like there's grief there, but it wasn't like total grief. There was also mixed in there a bit of like, not again, I can't believe this happened again, like with Joffrey, now with her daughter. Because a little bit later when her and Jaime are talking, she says to Jaime, she's like, look, this witch, because remember there was a flashback last season, this witch told me that, I would marry the king, I would be queen, all of my kids would have like golden crowns or whatever, which I think just means the blonde hair. But she said that I will outlive all my children. Remember that was the sort of curse that was put on her, that she would outlive all their children. Joffrey's dead. Now the daughter's dead. Tommen is the only one left. So she's like, she's saying to Jaime, like, it's coming true. All my kids are dying in front of me and I'm having to watch it happen. And part of that prophecy as well was that she would eventually be replaced by a younger, prettier queen. And that's why Cersei's always angry at this queen, because she thinks she's the one who's going to replace her. But in reality, it's probably going to be Dany. Dany's probably going to be the one to replace her. But I digress. The point is, it occurred to me in this, the Lannisters are such an endangered species right now. They are so dead, man. Think about it. We've got this curse targeting all of the kids that Cersei was talking about. But then you remember also the red priestess when she was with Stannis. She did this thing with leeches, throwing it into the fire, and one was for each of the Lannister kids. So there's also that curse on the Lannister kids. And you also got the mother of the Sand Snakes, who also wants to kill off all the Lannister kids. So that's 3 different things trying to take out your children. Plus, you've got the Boltons in the north that are about to attack from the north. We've got Dorne over in the south who's going to attack from the south. You've got the Sparrows inside King's Landing who are attacking you from inside the city. They're being attacked from the north, they're being attacked from the south, they're being attacked from the middle. They've got 2 different curses, 3 different groups all targeting their children, and there is still no Lannister that's strong enough to step up and take the lead and actually lead them out of this disaster that is looming on all sides around them. The only Lannister that's fit to actually save them is all the way over on the other side of the world right now, all the way over in Slaver's Bay, and he's not coming back. Like, they are so dead. So dead. I don't know how they're going to get out of this. This could be the end of the Lannisters in like this season and the next, I'd say. I don't know how they can get out of it. How are they going to get out? They can't. They can't get out of this. I mean, the only other time they were this threatened was when Stannis was attacking King's Landing, and the only reason they got out of that was because Tyrion led the defense of the city, and then Tywin showed up at the last minute to save them. Neither of those guys are around anymore. It's just Jaime and Cersei, and there is Tywin's brother, but he doesn't really seem to be that much of an influence. So I don't know. Yeah, they're in serious trouble. Serious trouble. Staying in King's Landing, we circle back now to the Sparrows, and we see that gigantic Shame chick harassing the Queen. And this scene was basically just to check in with them and to say that she's still there. She wants to see her brother, so he's still there. They haven't let him go. They're all still prisoners, and she's refusing to actually confess. So she's holding her ground, unlike Cersei. So I guess she's not going to have to do a walk of shame because she's not going to confess or what have you. But yep, no Tommen in this episode, which I guess makes sense. They do talk about him in this scene because the Sparrow leader guy is like, oh yeah, your bond with your husband, blah, blah, blah. That's a beautiful thing, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, no Tommen, because last thing we heard is he was so upset about everything that's happening that he locked himself in his room, wasn't letting anyone in, wouldn't eat food or anything like that. So I guess Tommen's still hiding in his room. That's why we haven't seen him. So yeah, but anyway, according to that curse, he's going to be dead soon anyway. I reckon he's probably going to kill himself. That's what I reckon's going to happen to Tommen. I think maybe if like something happens to this queen when they're trying to get her away from the Sparrows, maybe if she dies, he'll like kill himself. I could see him doing something like that. So how do you reckon Tommen's going to die? He's going to die for sure. Who knows how? But then we got, which for me was actually the biggest shock moment in the entire episode, is Mother Sand Snake over in Dorne, the sassy Latino land of Dorne. The Mother Sand Snake, and yes, I know that's not her name. Look, it's first episode back. There's a lot of names to remember, and I'm terrible with names anyway. I'm sure I'll relearn all the names as we go along, but in the meantime, just put up with the weird nicknames I invent for everyone. Okay, but Mother Sand Snake kills the Prince of Dorne. She kills Dr. Bashir. Wow. I did not see that coming. Here comes the message. Oh! Oh no! Oh no! Oh, you son of a... You scumbags. Oh. You killed Dr. Bashir, you... Why the hell did you do that? Why are they just standing there? Oh, come on, man. You want to kill like every single Lannister because your boyfriend got his head popped. The mountain's dead. That really surprised me. And I didn't think she was going to do that. Like, I thought she'd do something along the lines of when the message come back that she did poison the other Lannister girl. I thought maybe she'd intercept the message, or maybe she'd do some manipulating and convince him it was a forgery, or maybe somebody else did it other than her. I never expected this to happen. And you know why I didn't expect her to do this? Because I was like, well, she's doing this because she wants revenge for her boyfriend having his head crushed by the mountain. She wants to take out the other Lannisters to get revenge for that. But after seeing this, I think it goes beyond that. I think it started as that, but I think it goes further than that now, because if all she wanted was just revenge for what happened to her boyfriend, well, the guy who did it, the Mountain, is dead. As far as she knows, sure he's Zombie Mountain, but she doesn't know Zombie Mountain exists. So as far as she knows, the guy who did it is dead, and Mountain is also the one who killed his sisters, and that goes back even further. And the guy who ordered it all, Tyrion, he's dead now. Or Tywin, sorry, he's dead now. So the guy who ordered it and the guy who carried it out are both dead. So if she wanted revenge, she's got it by now. I don't think that's what's going on. I think she's a little bit like the guy on the wall, the Night's Watch commander guy who took out Jon Snow. I think she's doing a similar thing here. Because, that guy, he was using the whole situation of what was going on at the wall to take over leadership. I think she's doing the same thing here. I think it's become less about her getting revenge for her boyfriend and more about she now just wants to play Game of Thrones. She wants to step up and take control of Dorne, because there's no reason to go to war with King's Landing just because your boyfriend got his head crushed, but she's manipulated it, so apparently she's now the leader of Dorne. And it's going to be interesting to see, because like if she decides to go to war with King's Landing, like they're going to be fighting with King's Landing, but then if the Boltons come in at the same time as they're coming in, or maybe the Red Priestess's vision, Jon Snow will attack Winterfell and that will hold the Boltons back while King's Landing fights the Dorne. But then again, Daenerys, if she wants to come to King's Landing, she's going to have to go past Dorne first, and she might have to deal, they might have to deal with each other. So who knows? This could go in any direction, really, but Cersei's definitely going to be looking for revenge, but I don't know if she has it in her anymore. I mean, she's got the anger. I don't know. She certainly doesn't have the intelligence. Like Cersei, all of her schemes just fall apart. But I mean, can Jaime and Cersei hold it together and deal with the Sparrows and then also deal with Dorne at the same time and the Boltons? I don't think they can. I don't think they can. But this Mother Sand Snake, she's someone to keep an eye on, definitely. And also her Sand Snake daughter sort of sisterhood thing. They killed the prince's son, spearing him through the back of the head. Okay, character, whoever you were, I'm not going to miss you, but that was a cool death. I liked it very much. But then finally I got to see the characters I've been wanting to see so far. The two best characters in the whole show. The spider and the dwarf. I love these guys so much. I love them so much. Doing something which I don't know whether it was entirely a good idea. They're walking through the streets without soldiers, and they're like, oh, it's cool, we're dressed in commoner outfits, no one's going to target us. I don't know, man. I think they will target you. But hey, that's definitely a Tyrion kind of thing. He likes to stay connected with the people on the ground so that he understands what's going on in the city so he can rule it. So it makes sense Tyrion would want to, walk through the streets and get the lay of the land and see what's going on so he can solve this problem, which is the Sons of the Harpy. But these two, they have a conversation about, like, who do you reckon the Sons of the Harpy are? And the spider, he's like, yeah, I got all my spies out there. They're all doing it. We'll find out soon enough. Look, guys, this was a problem I had with last season as well. Finding out the Sons of the Harpy is not that difficult. Okay? This is Slavers Bay. There's only two kinds of people in this city. There's former slaves and there's former masters. Okay? The Sons of the Harpy don't like Daenerys because of what she's done. And the only really big thing she's done is free the slaves. Now, these Sons of the Harpy, they're also obviously well-funded, they're well-trained, they're well-equipped, so whoever's behind them has a fair amount of money. So out of former slaves and former masters, who has the biggest axe to grind with the queen, and who also has the money and the resources and the influence to put together a Sons of the Harpy? It's the former masters. It's not the former slaves. Of course it's the former masters. So of course they're the ones behind it. There's only two groups of people that can be behind it. It's not going to be the slaves. Why would they be behind it? Like, hell, the Sons of the Harpy in the arena thing, they were killing slaves as well. So look, all you got to do is just figure out who are all the remaining former slave masters in the city that haven't been killed, and just send spies to watch them and follow them. And eventually, if they are running the Harpies, they'll all meet together and have their Harpy meeting of what to do next, and then you got them. Or better yet, since this is Game of Thrones, just round up all of the former masters and just wipe them all out in one go. Problem solved. Problem solved. I don't know. I don't get why it's this big mystery of, like, who are they? You know who they are. Just kill them off. It's not that hard. All right. But they did have, on the wall, there's the old slogan that sort of Daenerys used to help overthrow the city of kill the masters. But then somebody's written, Misa is a master. And Misa, of course, is mother. That's Daenerys. They're like, well, kill all the masters. Well, she's kind of the biggest master of all. Now, whether that's the slave slaves that are slowly turning on her, or whether that's the Sons of the Harpy putting that out there to just, stir the pot and do what they do. But it is interesting because these two, they do walk and they come across sort of like a red priest guy, because he's, that religion is there. And he's talking to all these people and he's like, Daenerys is gone. She flew off on a dragon. We don't know when she's come back. And he has this line where he says, are we going to take up the flame for ourselves and do something about the city? Or are we just going to sit here and do nothing? And interestingly, because right after he says, are we going to take up the flame for ourselves and do something with it? The next shot is like all the ships in the harbor being burnt down with flames. So are they trying to hint that maybe the slaves are also something to do with the Harpies and they're now burning the ships down? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. Maybe this is just the ships were burnt just by the Sons of the Harpy doing their thing, and it's just a coincidence that this guy was talking about these people taking on the flame right before everything burns down. So, yeah, I'm interested to see these two guys set everything in place on Slavers Bay. Yeah, the way I see it, they should get it sorted out in like one day. Like, these guys are like two of the smartest, most efficient guys in the whole TV show. They could fix Slavers Bay in one day if they wanted to. So hopefully they get that under control very quickly. But not too far away are Dany's two boy toys, as we shall call them, chatting away, talking about being in love with Daenerys but not being able to be with her, or one of them has been able to be with her and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, I can see they're kind of trying to create some kind of bond between these two, of like, because the younger guy is like, I look at you sometimes and think, is that what I'm going to be like when I get older? I guess they're trying to form a bond because we might be having these two out tracking her for a couple of episodes, but I don't really care all that much about these two. I just want to see Daenerys, get back on track and start doing what she's supposed to do, but more about that in a sec. But Commander Friendzone, or whatever his name is, he pulls back his sleeve, reminding us all that he's dying of grayscale. So he just wants to save Daenerys before he dies and turns into one of those weird rock people things. But I did like this, though, that they find the ring that Daenerys dropped at the end of the last season. Because when that happened, when she took the ring off and dropped it, when all the Dothraki show up to take her, me as well as many others were like, well, how are they gonna, like, if she's leaving that there as a clue for them to find her, how are they gonna find her? There's like all this grass around, they're just gonna happen to come across the one tiny little ring in this whole thing. But here they made it that the Dothraki, because they circled around her and around her with all these horses, it trampled all the ground and left this big ring on the ground, like all this big sort of circle on the ground, and where she was standing was right in the center, so it's kind of like a bullseye for them to find the thing. So that makes sense. Good job for all of them on that. Good job for the show's creators on that, I mean. And then after this, we finally get to see Daenerys again. 35 minutes into the 45-minute show, we finally get to see who is arguably the main character, right? I mean, she's supposed to be what the whole book series and the whole show is sort of built around her and her journey. Yeah, so it's interesting because, like, first episode back in a season is where they're touching base with all the different characters, and that she was pushed this far down on the list. 35 minutes into a 45-minute show that we finally get to see her. That tells me that she's not going to be showing up at King's Landing for a long time yet. Her touching base with her isn't even in the top 5 story threads that we touch on in the show. But this whole scene happened just as you would expect, where they take her along and they're about to like chop her head off or do what Dothrakis do to women like her. She tells them all who she is, and she tells them that she's a mother of dragons, blah, blah, blah. They don't care. She says she used to be a Khaleesi for Khal Drogo, and then they're like, oh, wow, that's cool. All right, so we're not going to chop your head off or whatever. I thought this was interesting, though, because when she says I'm the mother of dragons, and they're like, ha, 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 you're just making that up. Couldn't she just be like, well, see that fire over there? I'm going to shove my hand in it, and you're going to see that it doesn't even burn me in the slightest. Now you know there's something special about me. And by the way, my dragon could swoop down here any second, and you're going to want to be on my good side when that happens. Like, she could do that, but she doesn't for some reason. I mean, I'm right about that, right? She is kind of like, she's unaffected by fire at this point, yeah? Like, that's sort of like her superpower of being the mother of dragons. But anyway, so she tells them all this about, and they're like, well, we're not going to kill you because you used to be a Khaleesi. But then the Carl of this group turns around and says, well, I'm not going to take you back to the city that you apparently rule, because if you used to be a Khaleesi, the rules are, once your Carl dies, you have to go and live in this temple for Khaleesi widows, and you have to live there for the rest of your life. So, oh boy, So I guess now they're going to go dump her in this weird temple somewhere with all these other widows of former Khaleesi's that used to be around, and she's going to be sort of stuck there. And we're going to have the two boy toys tracking her down over the next couple of episodes to get her and grab her and go back to Slaver's Bay so she can deal with the Sons of the Harpy. Now, all of this, I know that doesn't exactly sound like the most interesting storyline. It sounds a little bit like Walking Dead territory, where it's always someone is looking for someone else to bring them back. But I think all of that tells me that they want to do more stuff with like Tyrion on Slaver's Bay, so that keeping her away from Slaver's Bay so that they can deal with other stories there without her. So as much as it sucks that it looks like she's going to be wandering around the desert for a long time, I mean, she's done plenty of that already, but it's cool because it means we're going to get more Tyrion sorting out the Sons of the Harpy, and I love that. But it did occur to me, I was like, wasn't the whole point of her staying in Slaver's Bay and not sailing on King's Landing was because she said, I know how to conquer territories, but I don't know how to rule lands yet. So I'm going to stay here in King's Landing. I'm going to learn how to actually rule so that when I do take King's Landing, I'll actually be able to manage it and keep it. And sure, in terms of a show, that's kind of boring because she's just sitting around. But I suppose, like, if this was real life, you'd be like, yeah, that's the sensible thing to do. You learn how to rule first and then you conquer the other territories. So if she's spending this whole season or half a season or whatever wandering around in the desert, how is she going to be learning how to deal with the Sons of the Harpies? That's the whole point of her staying there, is to learn to deal with stuff like this. Like if she was in King's Landing, she'd be having to deal with the Sparrows or the Boltons or whatever. So if she can't deal with the Sons of the Harpies, how's she going to deal with any of the problems in King's Landing or any of Westeros, especially once those White Walkers come across the wall? I mean, come on. They're going to come across that wall. So, yeah, let's hope she gets back to Slaver's Bay and Tyrion starts schooling her about how to deal with this kind of stuff so she can set Westeros right when she gets there. And hopefully killing off that Mother Sand Snake on the way, because I don't like her. This then led to one of the most unintentionally funny scenes in the show. Blind Arya on the streets getting beaten to a pulp by that other faceless chick. I don't know what, baby assassin, whatever her name is. This was so funny. Poor Arya, poor Arya. I mean, I feel for her. She's there being trained as a faceless man or faceless woman so that she can be an assassin to kill off all these different people on her lists. And she makes a bad decision, admittedly a bad decision, but only one bad decision, which is she decides to kill off that pedo Kingsguard guy because he's on her list. So she neglects her training, she neglects the mission she was supposed to do and kills this guy, and that's why the faceless god or whatever made her blind. Well, actually, come to think of it, the faceless god didn't make her blind, but that dude... I'm terrible with names, sorry guys. But that dude mentioned if you wear the faces when you're not ready yet, it can actually make you blind. So she's blind, but it's not permanent. I'm sure it's not permanent. But this is kind of cool though, because she's homeless. She's having to sort of do this Jedi training of like learning to like sense and all that. So ultimately this will be good. It will turn her into a really cool ninja assassin type chick that can take out anybody. And she'd be just the kind of person that we need if she wants to, take out some of her enemies. And there's plenty of them too. And to finish off, the show brought us back to the Wall, the place where we started the episode with all the buddies of Jon Snow and the former smuggler guy, and they're all huddled, camped up in their room. The new commander of the Night's Watch knocks on the door and says, "Look, guys, lay down your weapons. I won't hurt any of you. And smuggler guy, I know you're just passing through, so I'll give you a horse. You can just move on." And smuggler guy's like, "Well, we need a bit of time to think about it." Turns around to the guys and says, "He's lying. He's going to kill us all. He just wants to take us without a fight." And they're left with this dilemma of how are they going to get out of this? They can't fight their way out. They're totally outnumbered. They're stuck in this room. And he says, "Look, our only hope is the Red Priestess." And they say, "Well, what is she going to do to take out like 40 different guys?" And he says, "You haven't seen her do what I've seen her do." Now that's interesting because I think the only thing he's really seen her do is create the cloud demon monster thing. And she said she could only really do that once with one guy, and they have to have sort of king's blood in them. Jon Snow's dead, so she can't get pregnant off him anymore. So she can't really make another cloud monster from someone. There's no one of royal blood there. So I don't know exactly what he's thinking that she's going to do, but who knows? She's like these fire religion people, they can do some pretty powerful stuff. Out of all the other religions we've seen in Game of Thrones, these guys seem to be the only one that can really do stuff. Apart from the many-faced god, they can obviously do stuff too. But that leads to the big reveal in the show, and I mean reveal in every sense of the word, pun intended, because before watching the show, I went on Twitter and I was careful not to see any spoilers, but I did see one comment on Twitter that said, "Damn, Game of Thrones, I really didn't need to see that." So I thought to myself, I quickly shut off Twitter, but I thought to myself, I was like, wow, this is Game of Thrones we're talking about. What could have been so horrible that would make someone say that? I mean, what is there? Someone beating a puppy to death with a baby kitten? Like what would it take for someone to be like, oh, I didn't need to see that? Well, it's even worse than that. It's even worse than beating a baby puppy to death with a baby kitten. It is a near 90-year-old woman standing there, stark nude. Ew. Yeah, Game of Thrones, I really didn't need to see that either. But of course, the big reveal in this is that the Red Priestess is much, much older than she seems. This actually wasn't a surprise to me because I'd already kind of heard this, that from Comic Book Girl 19's channel where she talks all about Game of Thrones. She's really into the books. She mentioned that there's rumors this chick is much, much older than she looks. So I always kind of viewed her as that she's this old woman. And I think this actress played it well, as that she's an old soul, an old mind in a young body. I did find it interesting, though. It seemed like she took her necklace off and that's when she changed form. So I thought, I wonder if that necklace is what gives her the ability to change and look younger than she actually is. And that's why as soon as she took it off, she changed back to being an old lady again. But who knows? That could have just been an incident, a coincidence. But that'd be cool if you could do that. Because I thought, well, if you put that necklace on somebody else, would it then turn them young again? That'd be a useful thing to have. Maybe the smuggler could put it on, look like an old man, and then just slip past the guards. And everyone would be like, oh, that must be a new guy. So that'd be useful in many ways. But it's interesting because just before that, when they brought up the Red Queen, I thought, I wonder if the Red Queen is really safe. Not Red Queen, Red Priestess. I wonder if she's really safe here at the Wall, because we've seen before women aren't usually safe in this place. A lot of these guys are rapists and stuff like that. But I figured, I guess the Red Priestess is creepy enough that guys are going to keep their distance, even though she's easy on the eyes. But I guess now that she can change into a 90-year-old woman, she's doubly safe from anything like that. Nobody's going to have a go at her when she's in that form. But it's interesting to see with her. She seems to be going through this crisis of faith, of the person she thought was going to be the savior of her religion, Stannis, turned out not to be wrong, and she interpreted everything wrong. So it'd be interesting to see what the next step is for her and how she's going to get those guys out of there. Why hasn't she tried to bring back Jon Snow yet? We know they can do that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So overall, guys, I thought this was a really solid first episode. I'm a little bit cautious, a little bit worried about what they're going to be doing with Daenerys and all that in the future. But things I'm really excited for is the Fantastic Four that's joined up. I'm excited for seeing Jon Snow come back because I'm so sure that's going to happen. But then you can never be sure with anything with Game of Thrones, because I was also very sure that Jon Snow wouldn't die. But also the leader of the White Walkers, that guy apparently used to be the leader of the Night's Watch like centuries ago. So if he did come back as a White Walker, he could kind of replace that guy, maybe, if he wants to turn evil and lead the White Walker army. Anyway, I'm speculating. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that Jon Snow come back. It's like things I take away from this episode is the Lannisters are in big trouble. They're in such trouble. I have no idea how they're going to get out of this, or if they're even going to survive. They might not even survive. Who knows? We might even have to have like Cersei and Jaime, like that. Maybe they'll lose King's Landing and they might have to flee and maybe seek refuge, and maybe Tyrion will be like, come to Slaver's Bay, I'll look after the two of you, or something like that. We know he'd take in his brother Jaime. He wouldn't take in Cersei, but wouldn't it be an interesting like turning of the tables, if something like that happens? But I'm jumping way ahead. Anyway, put down in the comments, guys, what you think we should call the Fantastic Four, and what you thought about the episode. And I'll see you guys next week with episode 2. See you later.